let's talk MLS. We will get to Atlanta because I know you have some stuff to say about your completely mid team. But let's talk about Columbus Crew, another team that's like, if you look at the numbers, they're a pretty mid team and have been for a good long while. But they haven't been over the past month. Over the past month, they've been a disaster. And then tonight, kind of out of nowhere, they were very, very good, and they crushed DC United 3-0. Tell me what you saw from this Crew team.
Yeah, no, I mean they got the wingers involved, right? And that's kind of been the talking point for so much of the year, right? What are the wingers going to do? Can like y'all Yaboa get involved? Can Derek Etienne keep it up? Derek Etienne was on a tear at the beginning of the year and then
Mm-hmm.
completely shut down along with everything else. And you would hope against DC United with their wing backs pushing up and everything like that they'd be able to maybe exploit some space there. And you saw it on a great ball from Josh Williams over the top of Derek Etienne who, I mean, the broadcast was talking about this. He'd been begging for that ball for weeks, right? And he finally got it and he made the most of it. And guess what? The Crew actually put up the goals.
Yeah, they needed that from him, but like, it does come back to the fact that with this team, we're talking about Derek Etienne, and
Right.
he's a good rotation player, right? He's a good squad player. He had a big goal in MLS Cup a couple of years back, and you can't argue with that. But on a week to week basis, he's never been a guy who has delivered consistently. So if you're looking at a team and you're saying, man, they're really inconsistent, and one of their starters is Derek Etienne, the shirt is answering a lot of questions that have been raised by the fact that they're,
Uh-huh.
it does feel like a person, and I mean, it's true of Lucas Zelarayan as well. We all know that he is spectacular, shooting from distance, and can produce highlight goals, more than a half dozen times a year. But we also have seen for years now that in terms of running the show on a week to week basis, it's very up and down from him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And even tonight, it's not like they completely bashed DC's head, and DC actually won on XG per Opta. Looks like Crew had 1.3 XG to DC's 1.4. This
Oh,
wasn't their route.
don't let Caleb Porter know that.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. Man, but he did say at halftime, and I think this was kind of his sentiment throughout the game that at least they were being solid defensively. At least their shape was solid and was letting them set up and create opportunities. And he said it at halftime. He said they're going to sit in and see what happens from there. Maybe hit on the break a few times, and I guess Darlington Nagbe scoring a banger counts as that in some way.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It got the job done, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, two of the three goals were on set pieces. Pedro Santos scorched in a free kick that, to be fair, John Kempin did not cover himself in glory on that one to open it. And then Derek Etienne had that goal, just a really nice ball over the top from Josh Williams. And the third one, it was kind of a recycled set piece that I mean, it's Darlington Nagbe gives you two bangers a year, and this was one of them. It
Mm-hmm.
just, full volley from 25 yards. The other interesting thing here, other than the Crew, producing, and we're still kind of throwing our hands up and saying, I don't know if this is going to happen week after week, is the shape of the midfield. Because with Zelarayan not starting, it was more of a 4-3-3 than the 4-2-3-1 that we tend to see from Columbus. And I actually thought like, even though they were lacking maybe a little bit of creativity, they went forward. They were more direct and I think decisive and just going vertical than we've often seen from them over the past few years.
Well, I mean, I think they had a safety net too. You kind of consider the fact that this is the first time they scored first since February 26th,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they had to have a little more confidence at that point. And you know what? If the formation change kind of affected that, good for them, right? Again, I'm still not super impressed by a lot of it, but it did enough.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's not super impressed is probably a pretty good default take for what we saw from this Columbus team. That said, 3-0 after having a 5-game winless skid, after not scoring in, I think it was 390 minutes or so, just a little bit, like a half hour shy of the club record. Columbus fans are very happy. I figured out what that background buzz I'm hearing is. I think that's Elon Musk somehow eavesdropping and trying to change the messages that are going out on Twitter. Like it was only a matter of time. And he moves quick, Sam. So like this is
If he figured that out for himself, that's the first time he's ever figured out anything by himself without his dad's money. So you know what? Great work, Elon. Glad to have you on, man.
well done, Elon. So yeah, a good win for Columbus to end a very bad month for them. Otherwise, a bad end of the month for DC United. Though, as you said, the underlying numbers were very good. Ola Kamara missed an early chance, or he rang the post on an early chance.
Mm-hmm.
If that goes in, things are a little bit different in this one. But I don't think this is a back to the drawing board moment for DC United, though they probably have to figure out how to tighten up in central midfield a little bit. I thought even last week they were a little bit gappy in central midfield. Let's move on though. Let's talk about your five stripes, because this was not a reprise of the Miami game where your boys had a ton of possession and were just living in the 18. That said, they had about 65% and created got into the final third with relative ease and lost 2-1 to a Montreal team in Montreal that they're now 6 unbeaten, our CF Montreal. I'm going to say that they deserved this because even though they didn't have a ton of the ball, they created, I think, most of the game's best chances, and they just looked more comfortable in what they were doing and in playing with each other than we have seen Atlanta look so far this season.
Yeah, they got to kind of take a rest, right? Like they got that first goal, and Atlanta has this running subplot this year where the center backs forget that they have to jump to get the balls that are in the air. It's a really interesting thing going on. It happens to be Alan Franco a lot of the time for some reason. Not sure what's up with that. But at that point, Montreal's just, they're sitting in, they're doing a little bit of a rope a dope, they're kind of letting Atlanta wear themselves out a little bit. Atlanta's just taking pot shots. It felt very 2021, like that late 2021 Atlanta that felt disjointed, felt disconnected, felt like people were just trying to 1v4 dribble their way to chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can see, Atlanta has 12 shots on the day and 0.7 XG. There's a whole cluster of them, right, from well beyond the 18. There was no spark. And all of the quality interplay and the rotations that were there against Inter Miami were nowhere to be found today. And I think like the dirty kind of secret of it is that sticking Luis Araujo back in there and having Marcy Moreno and having Thiago Almada on the field all at the same time probably isn't going to work the way people want it to work.
Mm-hmm. Expand on it, because this is a point I've made in my own way over the past month or so, but I want to hear you make it. Go ahead and expand on your view of this.
Well, yeah, we talked a lot about Marcy and Thiago kind of occupying some of the same spaces, and they've been improving on that, right? As the kind of the year moved along, and as the team had gotten used to life without Luis Araujo, and then you throw Caleb Wiley in on the left wing, and you start to see Andrew Gutman making these overlapping runs, and you start to see everything really kind of flow through the left side for the Atlanta attack, which left a ton of space on the right for Brooks Lennon, right? And the hope was that once Luis Araujo got that space, that things would be much more effective because he's Luis Araujo and Brooks Lennon is Brooks Lennon, right? That didn't happen today because the left side wasn't able to overload numbers in the same way, wasn't able to find space in the same way, and you just saw a bunch of folks kind of clattering into each other. You saw a pretty, again, I've talked about this before, the midfield is mostly just replacement level guys just throwing bodies at the thing the entire time, right? And it wasn't effective. And there's going to have to be some hard choices to make, and it may mean that the most talented 11 isn't the best 11 for Atlanta United down the road.
I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with that. I still think that they're going to give this at least half a season, maybe more, to figure it out. Because look, having that amount of talent on the field, like there's a good argument for that. And I think we even saw a lot of it in this one, where it's like Atlanta said they get into the final third so easily,
Hmm.
so easily, and like it's skill, like they have so much skill on the ball, and I think you can adjust the roles and the runs that you have guys make in order to better weaponize that skill so that they're not just getting to the final third, they're getting into the 18 and they're starting to generate better looks. I'm pulling up the numbers right now. In terms of percentage of shots taken from outside of the box, Atlanta's 22nd in the league. 42.3% of the shots they take are from outside of the box. And like it's murderer's row of not great teams around them, except weirdly LAFC are even higher, 43.7. But like generally speaking, like Philly is down around 30%, Nashville's at 30%, Austin, who we're going to talk about here in a second, 28%. So they like I think that there is a way for Atlanta to do this with all those guys on the field. Though right now, I agree with you. It bogs down. They want to operate in the same spots. Um, all three of those guys like to come to the ball instead of taking space and getting behind a defense. And yeah, so that explains a lot of the problem. The other thing that explains a lot of the problem today for Atlanta is that CF Montreal is really good. CF
Yep.
Montreal's a really good, really well drilled team. They, took it on the chin in March because of CCL. They just didn't have enough depth to balance the two different competitions. But since they were knocked out of CCL, they're unbeaten. They're unbeaten in six now. I think four of them are wins. We've all talked about Georgi Mihailovic. He's playing fantastic soccer. He had another assist in this one. But it's like there's just a team wide level of cohesion there that I don't think most in MLS can match at this point.
No, no, it flows so well, and everyone kind of seems to understand their role. I mean, it's to an extent like you're able to plug kids in, like Ismail Kone, right, and have him thrive all of a sudden in Wilfred Nance's system, and it just looks cohesive on a level that you could tell wasn't the same for Atlanta today, right? And when you can throw Joaquin Torres on at halftime, and you can
Yeah,
throw Kamara at the problem at halftime, it boosted them a lot, right? They have depth, they have an understanding of what they need to do, and that's a lot of talent there down the spine with Mihailovic and Kyoto and Wanyama and Coney doing a lot of really solid things. And of course, today all of a sudden you have Kamal Miller pop up and put out a mixtape, just ruining dude. All of a sudden, if you're getting random folks popping up out of nowhere to put on a highlight reel, then something is working within your system.
do you think that Montreal is like a top tier contender this season for either Shield or MLS Cup? We know they're always a top tier contender for for a Canadian Championship, but do you see them as like a Shield caliber team?
I can't go quite that far. I don't know what it is. I can't quite commit to that. But I mean, with the points they've gotten so far, with how much they're about to be at home, like we've talked about a bunch lately, they could take off here, and I could be regretting that for for a while.
Right.
But I don't know what's keeping me from saying that. I think it's maybe at the tip top tier of talent is what I'm worried about. Maybe they just don't quite have that level of
Yeah.
ability to compete with some of the better teams. But it feels like the East is so open right now. It could happen. I definitely think they can win MLS Cup. If we want to flip it to that,
Yeah.
that competition, then yeah, this is a team that understands its roles, understands what it has to do, and can grind out results. That's all you need.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the thing that would give me pause is the goalkeeper situation.
Yeah.
Um, Sebastian Breza was, I think, okay today, but he's had a couple of not okay games already this year. So, in terms of what I see from the field players, especially if and when they get Mason Toy back, I think
Mhm.
they are a team that could maybe hit that high gear. But if you have a goalkeeper who gives away results, and again, Breza didn't do that today. He had himself a fine game. But that is kind of the exception to the rule. Uh, let's move on to a team that has taken a lot of last year's promise, and I think they really did show promise last year, even though um, they had a rough season. But they've turned
Mhm.
that promise into production in 2022. That's Austin FC. They went down to Houston. They gave up a Galato. They gave up a 62 yarder to Sebastian Ferreira, but they turned it around and got themselves two goals in a 2-1 win down in Houston, and they're now atop the Western Conference. I think they're 6-1-2 in 9 games. Uh, Sam, they had a pillow soft schedule coming into this season, and like Austin fans are gonna be mad at that, but it's just a fact. They've had a pillow soft schedule. They have taken advantage for it. They have beaten the teams in front of them, 6 times out of 9. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I can actually illustrate how soft that schedule has been. Coming into this weekend, they played one team in the top 14 in expected goal differential per American Soccer Analysis. Do you know what that one team is, by the way? This is a fun
Is it DC?
question. It's Cincinnati right now. So
Oh my
that's the
god!
best team they played by expected goal differential at this point. Maybe
Yeah,
not super encouraging, but there's a point of diminishing returns on just saying they ain't played nobody over and over again, right? Because they keep taking care of business. They keep showing up, and players like Sebastian Drusi, who another goal today. He's got 7 goals on the year now, 3 assists. He's the first player in the league to 10 goal contributions. Alexander Ring suddenly looks like an elite playmaker. I don't know where this has come from, but it's kind of stressing me out because I can't figure out exactly what shifted other than maybe Danny Pereira giving him a lot of cover that maybe he didn't have last year. It's fascinating to watch it all kind of come together, and it's going to be even more fascinating to see if they can keep it up because they started out relatively well last year, all considered. I remember seeing a few of their uh, transition moments and possession moments. I mean, like, wow, it's a really solid base to build on, and then it completely fell off. So I don't know if it's going to happen again, but they're definitely going to take a step back, I think.
yeah. Their next 10 games. Uh, yeah, I looked through the schedule. 7 of the 10 are on the road. 8 of the 10 are against teams that I think are either legitimately good or legitimately talented or both, right?
Mm.
And like the other two are I think at RSL and at Charlotte, and we've seen enough already to know that even though those teams aren't great, those aren't easy trips. So it's going to be a very different 10 games uh, for Austin than the 9 games that they've played thus far. That said, going back to the original point, there's diminishing returns and saying they ain't beating nobody because if all you do is beat the bad teams, then you will make the playoffs.
Absolutely.
And and that's what like that is a legit linear step forward for this Austin team over last year, and they've beaten the bad teams by playing really good soccer. Like that goal that Danny Pereira scored today, that was just beautiful football.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's I want them to keep playing well, right? Because it's fun to watch. It's
Right.
enjoyable to watch, right? And you get goofy moments sometimes where your keeper gets beat from 62 yards and bangs his knee against the bottom of the crossbar and then is high-fiving the rest of his teammates on the way out as he gets stretchered off. Because just the camaraderie and the vibes are good enough, right? And that's enjoyable and that's fun to watch. You kind of want them to keep going like this. It might hurt if they don't keep going like this. Because man, it's been a blast, honestly.
Yeah, it has. The thing to look out for with Austin as they head into this tougher stretches, um, when they don't have the ball, will they be super vulnerable in transition? That was their story last year. They were by far the worst team in MLS defensively in transition. They have been much better than that this year so far, though. As we have said ad nauseum, now they ain't played nobody. There's a lot of tape out there now. The competition's about to get better. The season's about to change. We'll see if Austin can keep up with it. let's go around the league a little bit. New England, look, Inter Miami is back. The old, the Inter Miami that we've come to know and love over the past 2.5 years. They showed up tonight in a big way. Both center backs got red cards. They lost 2-0 to New England in New England. Basically didn't show up for this game. Cincinnati went on the road to Toronto, beat the Reds 2-1. No Brennan Vasquez in that one. No Alec Khan either. Or I think Vasquez actually came back for a late cameo. He's picked up a knock. But this is look, Cincinnati's got 3 wins already on the year. Last year, they had 4 wins all year. They've got 3 wins already in 10 games so far this season. They are on track to have by far their best season ever. What else? Late goal varred off in Utah as LA lost 1-0 to RSL. It was a controversial call. I thought it was a good call, though. You know that Andrew Levy and Charlie Davies will be talking all about that one tomorrow night on Instant Replay. Sam, Jesus Ferreira's got another goal. He's got 6 now on the year. I think he's second in the Golden Boot race behind Sebastian Driussi. Dallas have not played great tonight at Sporting Kansas City. That one, by the way, is 2-1 to Dallas in the 70th minute or so, though Dallas are down to 10 men. But like, Jesus Ferreira he keeps making a statement, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, this was a gorgeous goal too. He makes a good run, makes a sharp run, makes a good decision with the ball once he gets in the box and kind of works his way around a few folks and finds the side netting just about. That's really, really encouraging for a whole lot of folks who care about the USMNT and care about Dallas. And, they keep making runs. You kind of mentioned this, I think, a minute ago, Doyle, but Areola and Ferreira just run so much. It's constantly challenging the back line. I think Dallas leads the league in runs challenging the back line so far this year. They've been phenomenal at that, and that's just going to keep putting a ton of pressure on folks all year, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and it's especially effective against this Sporting Kansas City team that we know loves to play a high line. And it's worth noting, Peter Vermees may have had enough of his veterans because Andrea Fontes and Isamat Marine not in the starting lineup. It's Courtney Ford and I'm forgetting the name of the other center back, the German kid they got this offseason, Volader. So it's a new center back pairing for Sporting Kansas City. Given the news that Gadi Kinda is out for the year, that's their DP number 9 or number 10. Their DP number 9 already out for the year. I'm not saying that Peter Vermees is throwing in the towel, but if there's a year to lean into, okay, we're changing the guard, it seems like this is the year to do it for Sporting KC.
Yeah, they've got a punt. Like,
right?
there's no way around it, right? They aged out at the wrong time, is what it seems like. Everyone just hit a wall. So, maybe the roster wasn't all that great to begin with. I have some questions about that as well. And, if you're just going to get torched and transition over and over again, and you're going to be old doing it, it's going to hurt a lot. So you might as well just kind of rotate everything out and see what else you can find.
Yeah, and so Peter Vermees has done that with the center backs tonight. Also worth noting, Graham Zusi limped off with a quad injury, so it's the homegrown Cam Duke playing right back for Sporting Kansas City right now, and maybe for a while longer. Honestly, it makes them more interesting. I'm more interested in Sporting Kansas City now to see if these guys, these young kids, can come in and be the foundation of a great era in the way that the likes of Zusi and Beasler and Roger Espinoza, who was also subbed off early in this one, see if they can be a similar type of foundation that great era or that great generation was for Sporting Kansas City. All right, let's move on a little bit. Orlando City 2-1 win at home over. You're laughing because you saw the second goal. You saw the game-winning goal.
Yeah. I also enjoyed Huon. Not only the goal that Huon created on that second goal when Charlotte put 10 people up in the box on a corner kick against the fastest player in the league, right? Maybe not the best idea. He literally put on a flash mask earlier in the game. Did you guys not see that? Did you miss that?
He warned you.
It could have been a really good indicator of what was about to happen. And he lays it off for Facundo Torres, an easy tap in, and Charlotte loses the game. Great work, everybody. Good work.
Yeah, that was literally the game-winning goal. It was like a play right out of Matias Almeida's blueprint for attacking attacking corner kicks. Bring all your entire team, other than the goalkeeper, up. Um, a team's got to stop doing this, man. Like we can't be talking about this every other week. We can't be talking about this. What else is going on? Chicago is up 1-0 over the Red Bulls. That game went into a weather delay. There's a severe thunderstorm. Went into a weather delay just before halftime. That was a penalty converted by Jordan Shaqiri. I don't know when that game is going to restart. And then the other game, Colorado up 1-0 on Portland. That second half just started. Tomorrow's games, NYCFC hosts San Jose. That's at 1 p.m. on ESPN Plus. And then at 4 p.m., Nashville's beautiful new stadium opens. They are hosting the Philadelphia Union. That game's on ESPN Deportes. And then the late night, LAFC host Minnesota United in downtown LA. That's at FS1 and Fox Deportes. As I'm saying that, Daniel Shalhoub gets an equalizer. It's now 2-2 Sporting and Dallas in the 77th minute. Sam, did I miss anything? Anything else we should be talking about tonight?
No, I think tomorrow I'm looking forward to a few things. I think NYCFC San Jose is going to be a total train wreck. I'm so here for it. It could be. We saw what the 5-4 game a couple weeks ago. This could be close to that, and it could be uglier, and it could be even more ridiculous on so many levels. That's going to be great. And then I have a bunch of nice things to say about Nashville and what they've done over the last couple of years, and to open a 30,000 seat soccer specific stadium is remarkable, right? I remember being at the first game a couple of years ago, and then about 3 days later, a tornado hit Nashville. About a week later, COVID really kind of took hold of everything. It was not an ideal start for their, first year, their inaugural season, but they put together a solid team. They kept folks engaged, and now they get their victory lap for them and for the city and for everything they put together. And that is just really good to see.
Do you think they're going to feel any pressure to be entertaining and expansive with the ball tomorrow?
If you don't understand the intricacies of Gary Smith and his defensive and disciplined style, then and don't consider that entertaining, then you're watching the wrong team at this point, right? Like you just kind of have to accept what it is and take it for what it's worth. They aren't going to open up anything. Don't be fooled.
Don't be fooled. You heard it from Sam. Folks, thank you for joining us tonight. Sam, thank you for helping me out in tonight's version or edition of MLS After Dark. Don't forget to subscribe to the MLS Today podcast. You can listen to this one back. You get MLS Today literally 7 days a week, content coming out of our ears. MLSsoccer.com for complete coverage of the weekend's games. And tomorrow night, Andrew Wiebe and Charlie Davies with another episode of MLS After Dark. Good talking to you, folks. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.